It's Friday, June 10th, and this is now on HNN.
Essentially a modern-day serial killer.
A Big Island man accused in a string of knife attacks now faces a first-degree murder charge.
I was slipping in people's blood.
The Select Committee investigating the January 6th Capitol attack begins making its case against the former president. I'm Natalie Brandt with the new details revealed.
New today, the U.S. will end the COVID-19 testing requirement for air travelers entering the country. We got all these stories, plus today Wall Street is reacting to inflation, and it looks like your summer vacation will be impacted too.
So many expenses that people forget about.
How much is that R&R gonna cost you? Coming up on This Is Now. We begin with this breaking news. Stocks sank on Wall Street today after investors' hopes were dashed that inflation might be peaking. Instead, it got worse last month and marked another 40-year high, ensuring that the Federal Reserve's foot will remain firmly on the brake for the economy. The growing expectation is for the Fed to raise its key short-term interest rate by 0.5 percentage point at each of its next 3 meetings. You can see the Dow fell 880 points, 2.73%. Good afternoon. Thanks for watching This Is Now. Ashley has the day off. Well, the Biden administration announced today that the CDC is lifting that negative COVID test requirement for travelers entering the U.S. The change will go into effect for U.S.-bound air travelers at 6 p.m. on Saturday, Hawaii time. The measure has been in place since January of last year. The travel industry, along with some scientific experts, say the policy has been out of date for months. The CDC says it's lifting the testing after determining it was no longer necessary based on current science and data. But the CDC says it will reassess its decision in 90 days. Officials can reinstate it if need be, if there's a concerning new variant or spike in cases. This is expected to be the busiest summer travel season in years, with more than 70% of Americans saying they plan to take at least one trip. But as prices soar due to inflation, some are getting some serious sticker shock. Chris Van Cleve has today's Talker Story.
Tatiana White's high school graduation brought family from Georgia, Maryland, and Connecticut to Daytona Beach, Florida.
Did getting here cost you more than you thought it would?
Oh, yeah.
But vacation inflation has them spending more for just about everything. Evelise Cruz came from Hartford.
What was your budget? Where do you think you'll end up?
I mean, I wanted to keep it anywhere between $2,000. I'll probably be close to $4,000 by the end of this.
Domestic airfare is costing flyers like Cruz 34% more than 2019. Airbnb prices are up 11% this year, and the average hotel room costs nearly $171 a night in May. That's $40 more than a year ago. Rental cars have soared a stunning 70% during the pandemic.
There are just so many expenses that people forget about when it comes to travel. But I do think the biggest pain point for people right now is those car rental prices.
Surging travel demand, coupled with increasing costs being passed on to customers, is stretching travel budgets. NerdWallet's research finds it also is costing more just to do things on vacation. Eating out costs 7.2% more than it did last year. Tickets for movies, theaters, and concerts up nearly 6%. For Leonida Rivera, the real budget killer? That all too familiar pain at the pump.
It's just hard. Like gas, $5, like crazy.
Nearly 43% of Americans say economic concerns are now prompting them to reduce travel or cut their vacation budget.
I was going to go to Antelope Canyon. I was going to do Yosemite, Yellowstone.
We found Sean Sherman topping off his RV with more than $200 of diesel. Work is driving him to New York this time, but the cost of fuel put the brakes on a family road trip.
I just said, look, we're putting it on the back burner for now, and it broke some hearts, but that's the reality.
So what can you do? Book early and be flexible on your travel dates and times when it comes to planning the trip. Think about renting the car first and then finding the hotel and airfare. And speaking of that rental car, it is almost always cheaper to go to a downtown location or somewhere away from the airport because airport locations tend to add fees. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Arlington, Texas.
And we have this follow-up to pass along. Federal records show the tour helicopter that crashed on the Big Island Wednesday was manufactured in 1998 and purchased by Paradise Helicopters in 2018. The NTSB and FAA are now investigating after the Bell 407 crashed, sending all 6 on board to the hospital. 2 of them were seriously injured. The NTSB says the helicopter took off from Kona International Airport and crashed in a lava field about 30 minutes later. Hawaii News Now did an interview with the witness. Let me play it out.
We were noticing the helicopter was picking victims up about 1.5 miles out in the lava rock, which is very treacherous, and bringing them back to the location so the ambulances could send them into Kona.
A Tennessee newspaper reports that the victims include 3 family members from Chattanooga. The NTSB will head to Hawaii once the wreckage is recovered. Paradise Helicopter says it's cooperating with authorities. Prosecutors on Hawaii Island have filed a motion to deny a Kona man bail. He's accused of a disturbing stabbing spree. Let's turn things over now to Lynn Kawano with an in-depth look at the case.
The 24-year-old was already wanted in connection with theft and burglary cases. Now he's accused in a stabbing spree that left 2 dead and 2 others hospitalized.
Mr. Asuncion is present to my right in custody.
Chito Asuncion did not have much to say during his first court hearing. He listened, hands cuffed, feet shackled, as his defense attorney told the judge he understands the charges against him. They include 2 counts of murder, 2 counts of attempted murder, and 1 count of first-degree murder, an enhanced charge because prosecutors say he intended to kill more than 1 person in separate incidents.
Murder in the second degree, the penalty, the max of the penalty is life in prison with the possibility of parole. Where you have a murder in the first degree conviction, the penalty is life in prison without the possibility of parole.
You understand, Mr. Asuncion?
Tuesday, 48-year-old boy Megra was found stabbed to death at Halehalavai County Park.
Paddling, surfing, diving, swimming, those are all areas that we frequent, as people who live in Kona, Ali'i Drive, and Halehalavai with graduation season. It's a place that our community frequents.
Big Island police arrested Asuncion for that case and then connected him to 3 other stabbings. On May 17th, 63-year-old Brian McCulley was also found fatally stabbed in Kailua, Kona. 8 days later, in Hilo, a 59-year-old man was taken to the hospital with stab wounds. He was treated and released. And a 70-year-old Hilo woman remains hospitalized with injuries after also being stabbed in late May.
It's very, very scary in the sense that the situation is putting people who are violent next to people who, might just be houseless at the moment.
This is a very unusual, unfortunate set of circumstances. This is not something that typically occurs on Hawaii Island. We have an individual, essentially a modern-day serial killer.
Asuncion's bail is currently set at $1.5 million. Even though bail is more than $1 million, prosecutors want him held without bail. His preliminary hearing is scheduled for Monday. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Our Sammy Selena has returned from doing some special coverage in Uvalde, Texas. Wanted to invite her on to This Is Now to talk about what the experience was like. Sammy, what exactly were you covering?
Jonathan, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate being on This Is Now. We traveled with a group of volunteers to Uvalde, Texas. These are volunteers from Lei of Aloha. Basically, they were delivering this mile-long lei to those folks. It takes a lot of work in order to create something like this. They've done it a number of times because, unfortunately, they've had to visit a number of mass shooting sites. So Vegas, Parkland, now Uvalde, Texas.
Yes, Sammy, you were traveling with those volunteers. Tell me what those conversations were like.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, they were just heartbroken that they had to do this yet again. They're glad that they're able to shed a little bit of light in a really dark time. But honestly, the fact that they have to keep doing this every year is something that breaks their heart. But they're just obviously very happy that they're able to spread some aloha. This is Ron Ponzo, who founded Lei of Aloha.
You know, devastation, definitely. This should never be happening, especially to our keiki. So, you know, a lot of hurt, a lot of praying.
So, Sammy, you touched on it just a bit, but tell me what the presentation was like. Where was it exactly, and how did it unfold?
So this was at the town square, and a lot of community members I talked to, they heard about it from friends, from social media. Lei of Aloha was there the day before and talked to some community members in order to get the word out that they wanted to do this. So this was in the town square. There was a fountain in the middle of it, and just piles of toys and flowers around crosses of the names of these children. And it's very touching to see. As they were getting ready and setting down the lei, there was already, you know, about 100 people or so that were ready to watch this ceremony. It took about a half hour. They did hula. They called up families who have lost someone and friends and said, you know, if you've lost someone and you're comfortable, you know, we would love to have you up so we can present this to you. One woman who I talked to, Cindy Castillo, she lost her granddaughter, Lexi Rubio, in the shooting, and she said the ceremony was just so beautiful, and she really thanked the group for being there.
It was beautiful, peaceful, created a sense of calmness.
It was emotional to be there with those volunteers. Those volunteers got emotional, but you know, they're ultimately just so glad they were able to share that moment of healing. And I was so glad I got to experience that with them. And you know, I wanted to thank those volunteers for having me, and also, you know, for the people of Uvalde just being so willing to share with us their stories and their you know, their endeavors when it comes to the healing process. And they were such a tight-knit community and so kind to everyone who was there to tell them that they're sorry for what they've lost.
Sammy, I know your reporting was appreciated from here in the islands to Texas. The story picked up by a number of affiliates around the country, so appreciate your reporting. Good job.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Well, a lot of people talking about this story. The House Select Committee last night in its hearings playing never-before-seen footage of the U.S. Capitol attacks. Here's Natalie Brand with more on what happened.
Showing new video and releasing new details. The Select Committee investigating the January 6th U.S. Capitol attack began laying out its case against former President Donald Trump.
January 6th was the culmination of an attempted coup.
Donald Trump oversaw and coordinated a sophisticated 7-part plan to overturn the presidential election and prevent the transfer of presidential power.
Committee Vice Chair Liz Cheney said the former president did not make a single call to law enforcement to protect the Capitol. Then Vice President Mike Pence did.
That day, it was just hours of hand-to-hand combat.
Capitol Police Officer Caroline Edwards, who suffered a traumatic brain injury, described the Capitol as a war zone that day.
I mean, I saw friends with blood all over their faces. I was slipping in people's blood.
The next hearing is scheduled for Monday. The committee says it will show the former president's inner circle told him claims of election fraud were false.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was.
I respect Attorney General Barr, so I accepted what he was saying.
But Vice Chair Cheney says Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry and multiple GOP congressmen sought presidential pardons for their roles in attempting to overturn the election.
We have the documentation.
House GOP leaders have called the investigation political and illegitimate. CBS News spoke to Illinois Congressman Adam Kinzinger, one of 2 Republicans on the panel.
History is going to judge this time. And people are picking sides right now on what side of history they want to be judged on.
The committee expects to release its full report this fall after several more hearings this month. Natalie Brand, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Hawaii has reported a third probable case of monkeypox, and health department officials said the patient has no travel history and appears to have contracted the virus after attending a social gathering. Authorities said the case means monkeypox is now likely in the community. DOH announced the news yesterday, and officials said they're still looking for the link between the third patient and the first two. Switching gears now, we gotta get a check of your weekend weather. Happy Aloha Friday, by the way. Let's turn things over to Guy Hoggy with a look at your weekend.
10 days into hurricane season, are you prepared? If you're not, here's a good way to get prepared, get all the information you need. Just turn on your camera phone, point it to that QR code, download the Hawaii News Now weather app. That way you can get all the information you need to keep your family safe during hurricane season. Not a whole lot happening with the surf, relatively small, 3 feet or less everywhere. Fishing and diving, though, up in the country, pretty nice for that. And a small swell is due to tomorrow night in through Sunday for North and West Shores. Pretty small in town, but the next swell coming into town is probably going to start sometime on Wednesday. So load up on the sunblock, maybe go hit it to cliffs at Diamond Head. Going to be pretty nice today with lots of sunshine. That UV index, though, will be extreme. So grab some reef-safe sunblock, put it on, and reapply.
All right, now's the time of the show where we take a look at what the internet is talking about today. And since Ashley is off, let's make it This Is Now and Friends. Let's bring in our good friend Casey Lunn. Hey Casey, how you doing?
Oh, both working from home, I see.
Oh yeah, last day for me, Yeah. All right, let's see what cyberspace is abuzz about. And here's what I found, and it's pretty cute. NASA's Perseverance rover has made a friend on Mars. The rover encountered a pet rock for 4 months now, and the two have been inseparable ever since. The rock reportedly found its way into the rover's left front wheel in early February, and since then it has traveled nearly 5.5 miles across the rugged terrain. The Mars rover's current focus is drilling cores and examining rocks around the Delta area, which NASA says were created billions of years ago when there was water in the area. Perseverance pet rock is not hurting any of those operations. It remains to be seen how long the robotic explorer's new friend will stick around. Oh, it reminds me of me and your relationship, Casey. I'm just stuck with you.
Hey, and at least he has a friend now, so I doubt it will inhibit operations. It'll probably enhance them. Anyway, well, I've got something we've all been paying attention, at least loosely. I had to get away from it from some time to time. But the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, well, Depp is now celebrating his recent legal victory with some new music. Check it out. The actor joined forces with guitar legend Jeff Beck for an album called 18. The two have worked on the project for the past 3 years, and it includes covers of songs by the Beach Boys, Marvin Gaye, and John Lennon. Depp and Beck met back in 2016 and were part of the classic rock supergroup, the Hollywood Vampires. The album is scheduled to be released on July 15th. This comes on the heels of the end of Depp's contentious defamation suit against his ex-wife, Amber Heard. Oh, as much as that was such a spectacle, I'm really glad it's over, because no matter what, it was people kind of suffering a lot, but it was something to see, that's for sure. It's undeniable.
Yeah, I really wasn't too aware of Johnny Depp's musical aspirations and his past. Hollywood Vampires, never heard of that one either.
Yeah, he's been out a couple times, like, celebrating. People have seen him popping up all over the place, so good for him, I guess, but it's still kind of an ugly situation, but I'm glad it's over for one.
All right, more trendy news to get to. LeBron James wants to bring basketball to Sin City. In the latest episode of The Shop, the star said he wants to own a pro team in Las Vegas, a major city that currently doesn't have an NBA franchise. League Commissioner Adam Silver says the NBA will eventually expand, but it's not an immediate concern. That's not slowing down James, though. He said in a tweet he's, quote, speaking it into existence. The 37-year-old is already part owner of the baseball's Boston Red Sox and the British football team Liverpool FC. 37 years old and already done so much. What am I doing with my life?
We're doing the news.
But you know what? Vegas is probably in need of an NBA team. It could only do well. We're seeing the success of the Raiders there now, right?
At Allegiant Stadium, really huge market and probably would not do bad. You're right. Well, Jonathan, did you watch Scooby-Doo growing up?
The cartoon, but not the movie, honestly.
The movies are not good, in my humble opinion. I absolutely love Scooby-Doo. It was one of my favorites. When you did call in sick for high school, that was what was on after The Price is Right. I had a whole lineup. Scooby-Doo was awesome. Well, some good news for fans of the series Scooby-Doo. They'll have a chance to embrace their inner Shaggy or Velma. Well, get this, Airbnb has 3 overnight stays along the coast of Southern California in a recreation of the Mystery Machine. Check this out. I would stay there. This is the van, of course, used by the cartoon characters as they foiled mysteries and unmasked villains. This special offer is a tie-in with the 20th anniversary of the live-action Scooby-Doo film. Again, some people think it's good. Matthew Lillard, who played Shaggy in the movie, is hosting the stays, which are scheduled for June 24th, 25th, and 26th. Those who book a one-night stay will get lots of perks, including a late-night viewing of the film, complete with all-you-can-eat snacks, Scooby snacks, and other throwbacks to 2002, including the latest Sugar Ray album. What a blast from the past. Booking, by the way, Jonathan, if you want to go, available on Airbnb's website.
All right. I was going to ask you, give me your best Scooby impression.
I don't want to go to the Airbnb.
All right, that's enough. Maybe we shouldn't do this again. Maybe we shouldn't do this again, Casey. But thanks for being with us for this special edition, at-home edition of From the Feeds. Let's get to some good news now. Well, surveillance camera footage of a mysterious figure in Texas has officials scratching their heads. Jeannie Mose has more on that.
The city of Amarillo, Texas is asking folks to guess, what is this thing? The image was captured last month at 1:25 a.m. by a camera set up inside the Amarillo Zoo, looking out through a perimeter fence. Is it a person with a strange hat who likes to walk at night? City officials asked in a tweet, referring to it as a UAO.
The unidentified Amarillo object.
Wow. Let the guesses begin from Fantastic Mr. Fox.
I don't want to live in a hole anymore.
To Rocket Raccoon from Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
The camera is motion activated and sends an alert to zoo officials when it captures something. There were some serious theories.
A raccoon standing on its hind legs, or potentially a person walking through the park that just happened to get captured in a peculiar way.
But the public's guesses were more colorful, from Sonic the Hedgehog to the San Antonio Spurs coyote mascot. Someone tweeted the movie Dog Soldiers called and want their werewolf back. Another poster wondered, is this guy on the loose? And of course, there were references to Bigfoot, though someone thought Littlefoot might be more appropriate. There is no video, just this image. One poster went all out to illustrate his theory it was a coyote jumping the fence, diagrammed with anatomy like ears, tail, etc. Noted. If nothing else, all these guesses could leave folks howling. Jeannie Mose, CNN, New York.
That's going to do it for this Aloha Friday edition of This Is Now. Hope you have a safe and happy weekend. Ashley and I will be back in the H&N Digital Center on Monday. Hope to see you then.